up? It's Way Up with Angela Yee. I'm Angela Yee, and I'm really excited today to have one of the most renowned chefs literally in the world. Marcus Samuelson is here.
Thank you for having me. I am super excited to be here on Way Up. I'm very excited.
Well, I'm excited because we got some amazing food just now. So thank you so much. It's mac and cheese with collard greens. It was some fried chicken. It had a honey flavor.
Yeah, definitely.
And some cornbread.
Yeah, no, I had to throw it from, Red Rooster. We came down with a little bit of food for you. But, my goal is for you to start eat fish. That's my next goal.
Oh, my gosh. I told Marcus I've never had seafood in my life except for canned tuna fish. And I may have had like some Gordon's frozen fish sticks at some point.
They don't count.
When I was really, really young. I know. But my mom doesn't eat seafood, so it's just something that's a weird kind of a taste to me. But what would I start with, would you say?
I think catfish, salmon is really good. Those two would be really good because they have probably the meatiest flavor. The closest, a nice seared salmon would be good. A beautiful fried catfish would be really nice. Maybe on a sandwich,
People always order Chilean sea bass, I feel like.
Oh, because you go with the fancy people.
That's what I
like, Angie, you're from Brooklyn. Now you're at Nobu with the cod and everything with the black
not
miso.
Doing all that. Nothing wrong.
God, no.
Okay.
Well, how about a catfish sandwich?
Well, you know what? Since I'm such a picky eater, Marcus, what don't you eat?
Ooh,
as I sip this coquito.
Yeah, I have allergies. I'm allergic to buckwheat. So anything with buckwheat, I just can't eat. I'm on the floor.
What would have buckwheat in it?
Oh, a lot of like breads or grains or like really healthy stuff as buckwheat comes more from like Russia, Poland, that part of the world. Mm-hmm. And it's I think actually as a chef, it's actually in a weird way, it's a blessing to have an allergy because then you understand when people come with a list to the kitchen because it's not a complaint, it's not a preference. It's like I'm allergic.
Yeah, sometimes I just lie and say I'm allergic to seafood.
Yes.
Because I know people are always like, wait, you don't eat it? Or I'm like, I'm allergic. Because it's just easier.
Yeah.
Because people think it's so weird, that I don't eat that. But you came correct with the Red Rooster food. I actually went to Red Rooster in Harlem when it first opened. I was with Michael Kaiser. Yeah. And that was like, I think it was the first week that it opened. Mm-hmm. And since then, I mean, you already were explosive. Everybody was like, you got to get in. But it has been nonstop. And first things first, I want to talk about this Honeyland Festival that is happening this weekend that I am so excited to go to in Houston. So tell us about how this even came about.
Yeah. I mean, IMG came to my team. It's like, we want to do this festival. They've been watching what we've been doing with Harlem Meet Up for years. Like, Harlem Meet Up is our food festival in Harlem for 8 years now. And so they came to us like, we want to put something together that is very, very special, that both honors Black music. Therefore, Mary J. Blige, Bun B, all the amazing acts is going to be there.
A lot of Houston acts, too.
Yes, a lot of
It's a whole Houston All-Stars performance. Mm-hmm.
And then, asked us if we can be partner and curate the food side. So we're like, yes, this is amazing. And also to pick Houston as a city, it's just such a special place.
It
right?
is.
First of all, it's the most diverse city in the country. I don't think people even know that.
I didn't even realize that. Okay.
And where we put it in Sugarland, which is actually the biggest population of West Africans. You have a lot of Nigerians, Ghanaians, Uganda. Like, it's a lot of African vibes in Sugarland. So I just feel really proud as an African to be able to put it there.
Right, because you're from Ethiopia, but raised in Sweden.
Yes.
And then came over here. I want to ask you about food. I remember one time I've been to South Africa. I went to Johannesburg, and the food just tastes so different. And I think about the food here that we have in the United States and certain things now that are getting banned that we should have never been eating and things that they don't eat in other countries, and how we have to be really conscious of what we're putting into our body. And I remember going there and feeling like the food just tasted so much fresher. What's the difference that you see from coming from Africa and then coming here to the United States and the way that food may, be prepared and certain ingredients?
Sure. I mean, I would say the biggest issue, especially in for us, is that we have trans fat in more of our fast food, right? So people eat road food, or people are on the move to go to work in all over the world, but that is actually street food. Street food is somebody's auntie's mom, dad cooking at home, bringing to the street. That's fresh food.
Right.
There's a difference between junk food and street food. So what you eat very often when you're on the go in other parts of the world is home-cooked food prepared on the street. What we've traded sort of deliciousness for convenience, right?
Right.
So trans fat, that's the biggest issue. That's one of our biggest issues that we have in this country that the majority of the world is not dealing with on the same level.
Yeah, because you're very slim. And then, Shay, I got to ask, like, do you taste all your food while you're, because it looks like you got to work out all the time. I can imagine when I'm cooking, which I don't do all that often, but I'm always eating while I'm cooking. And then by the time the food's ready, I'm full.
No, I mean, you got to work out. You got to work out. And I need to work out as a chef also because being a chef is almost like an athlete. You're tired. You got to prepare your back for it, your stomach for it. So for me, it's about working out, giving me peace of mind. It's like the only time also, I got 2 small kids. So it's the only time I'm by myself, right? But you also have to prep for it in terms of like, if I don't work out, my back is not right. I got to stretch. It's almost like being an athlete,
And everybody recognizes you, obviously, from having, television, from winning competitions and then judging competitions and having your own programming. I want to talk to you about how it is when you're in your restaurants. Obviously, people are going to keep on coming up to you. Everybody wants to talk to you, even on the street.
Yeah.
Everybody. And I remember you said people will come up to you and be like, I'm adopted too, and, have different things to say. How do you balance being a personality, being, an executive, being a business owner, having these different restaurants, but also having to be the face of it and people always talking to you? It kind of limits your privacy.
It does, but it's also a blessing, And I came here with $200 in my pocket, and but I knew I could add value. I knew it could work, and I think as a true New Yorker, you got to go through all the different steps. And I love when people come up to me to talk to me about their food or a recipe because they're sharing their personality. The only time I don't like it is when I'm with my kids.
Exactly.
And people want pictures, but I'm like, you can take a picture of me, but like my daughter is almost 2 years old, right? She's a baby. Like I just don't want my son or my pictures in any other people's pictures. But other than that, it's also recognition of the journey.
Right.
You know what I mean? And people, chefs. People come to our restaurant and celebrate their most intimate moment. Maybe their first date. Maybe they got married. Maybe they broke up. Whatever it is. So we're in people's lives. And when you have a restaurant like Red Rooster, it's so public. It's on Lennox and 125. If you don't like to have a dialogue with the public, don't put it on 125 and Lennox, right? So, and now we've evolved, obviously, with Havmar and Metropolis, but each restaurant is special. Havmar, it's all about women of color.
Right.
Right.
And you hit me up as soon as you were opening that restaurant and said your staff and the executives and the head chef, everybody, women of color.
Yeah, but you're actually, that restaurant, we really thought about the restaurant during the pandemic, during the time where we are we going to come back? Does restaurants still matter? Will people come back? So I had a little bit of a pause to really rethink what can I do in the industry? I love my industry, but it also has a lot of problem, right? In terms of for us, for black people, but also for women of color, particularly. So I'm a leader. I can't stand on the sideline and say, there's nothing I can do about it. I actually have a say. I have a big say.
Right.
So let's do something. So, and I looked at other industries. So I thought about people like yourself, like Issa Rae, like a lot of other industries that have had similar problems, but then they got role models like yourself. So for me, it's really that energy that you put out here every day. People see that. They might not communicate with you right away, but like you inspired me, and the team. Francelli that you met and Fariel, they're amazing, and they're doing their thing.
I was so happy to meet them, and the way everything was so smoothly, it's a beautiful, beautiful space.
Yes,
and the food was amazing. I actually had a dinner there. Thank you to Rashida Jones, the president of MSNBC. She was like, "I want to host a dinner for you." I was like, "Let's do it at Havmar," and I hit you up, and you were like, "All right, set it up." And it was all women, and it was just an amazing experience to have that group of women in that space. And I always want everybody to keep on going back too.
But I've also learned a lot, like how do we problem solve? Like I think now as a leader, my job is to set the table, set the vision and the direction. But then how do we evolve? How would you like to solve this? Like here's an idea, but you guys got to drive this. So I've learned a lot, and I think when you've arrived, your whole point is like you have to open up the door, kick up the door, and make the space wider and normalize that. We're not going anywhere, and you know what? At all, right? And it's going to be more diverse, and this is an example of that.
What have been some of your challenges in the restaurant business? We all know that's one of the hardest industries to be in. So for you and for people listening, because there's people that are like, I want to open a restaurant, I want to do this. What have been some of your biggest challenges that you've had to overcome?
Well, I would start with, the blessings of being black and an immigrant is that you start every day with it's a hustle.
Like, no, you got to go harder. Yeah.
And it's all, honestly, it's been, there's a lot of challenges, right? It was hard to raise money the first time. It was hard to evolve to get to this point, right? But I think I'm not in a position to complain. I have a lot of gratitude, and I know that all I had to do is to work and inspire and really have a solid idea. And, I love the industry. I love my people. It's not an easy business, but what is easy? Like nothing.
Yeah.
I've been able to have a dialogue with the public in New York as a creative for over 25 years. You can't complain if you had that. You know, that's an amazing journey.
And, honestly, we had a whole conversation, and this was years ago, and I'll never forget you talking about this, just being able to retain great employees, because that's a challenge that a lot of people do have in this business. It's a challenge I've had with my small businesses where you might get excited about someone, but then they go off and they end up going to work somewhere else, and giving people incentives to want to stay. So what are some things that you do that people really tend to want to long-term work with the Marcus Samuelsson group?
Well, the whole point is you got to build a vision and a mission that is not about you. You can set the table, but how do you bring smart, energetic, passionate people along with the journey? So you got to do exciting projects. Some of them they can share on this, whether it's a financial success or whether it's something that they need on their resume, for example. So we do these festivals that I do with my team. It's not my festival; it's the festivals of the team. So those are things that people. They work hard, we work hard, but it's also fun stuff that is in and of the community that they come from, right? Like Angela, she's from Houston. She's worked with me for a long time. The festival's going to be in Houston, right?
Yeah, she was ready to go to Houston a week in advance.
Yeah.
But
and we do these events where it's like Harlem Meetup. It's completely in the community, for the community. And so if you grew up in Harlem or if you're in that part of your uptown or from the Bronx, this is your community, so you're excited about it. So, I'm a chef, I have a beautiful restaurant. That's one part. Everybody can't participate in that. But the other side, the content side.
I can't.
You know what I mean? The content side. If you want to make books, we make books. Okay, what position do you want to have? Okay, here's the vision and path we have for that. So as a leader, you really got to multitask and set vision that other people can really take part of, both from a monetary side, but also from a creative side.
Right. No, that is exciting for people to know that they can come to, executive leadership or be executive leadership, but also come with ideas and then see their ideas get implemented. And then that's something that you have under your belt.
Yep.
Because it does hurt. Like we had an amazing manager and then she ended up leaving. It's just really hard when those things happen and you become a family, but you also wish people well.
But she let her go because she might come back.
Right.
It's not always greener over there.
All the time.
And she's gonna be your ambassador over there. It's like, you know what? We started this and it always looks greener, right? On the other side, right? But then let them come back. That happens a lot at Rooster. People want to leave. And I'm like, go.
Yeah.
And some come back, some don't. But at least I know if we provide the space, we're going to do the best we can. And, our restaurant's also not just about food and hospitality. It's also about music. It's about seeing the community. It's a vibe.
It's a vibe when you go in there. You're like, okay, I'm not leaving. But that's hard, too, because then you're like, okay, we got to give a limit because we need to let more people come in.
Yep.
And I want to talk to you about this that went viral. Keith Lee, he's a food critic, and he was in Atlanta, and he was visiting different restaurants.
Yeah.
And he wants to go to a restaurant not as a celebrity or somebody who's known, but just as a regular person and see how he gets treated. But then when people see that it's him, they're like, oh, we can't accommodate you. We can't get you this table right away. We can't give you this to go. And so he didn't like that he won't go in there if he's not treated that way from the beginning. But a lot of these restaurants that are overly booked, that are hard to get a reservation at, they do make accommodations for people who are well known. Yeah. What are your thoughts about that? Because some people think that that's the wrong thing to do, but then I also understand as a restaurant owner, you want to make sure that you are getting that type of viral, where somebody might come in who has a huge following and post it, and that does help the business.
No, it's super layered and complex, right? But, a VIP, there's many reasons why someone is, we sometimes we call it PX a VIP. but sometimes it's also pure about safety. In all our restaurants, we have a side door where we can let people in and out because it's about safety. When we've hosted from the President of the United States to like, if you're a major celebrity, you have to create a safe space for that person. And it's very hard for somebody else to say, why are you treating them differently? It's all about safety, you know? And it's so that treatment is actually necessary for certain times. Do you know what I mean?
I know. I'd be like, why you let President Barack Obama sit here before me? I was waiting. No.
Yeah. But so part of it is that. And I know, I mean, it is reviewing a restaurant. It's very important because for that family, it's their only business most of the time, so they want to get a good review.
Yes.
Training hospitality is super hard, right? Because it's a daily thing. It's not a system that you can just press play.
And sometimes you can't help how people act that day to some of your customers.
Yeah. But, you know, I think I also feel bad for him because now he's getting, I don't want anyone to get death threats or anything like that. You know, I think actually his intention was actually pure and right, and then it got left. And I you know, I love that we are passionate and we get involved and we get excited about that. But then also, no one should get death threats. There should be it's only, you know, we have to put a limit to it because I do think his intention was actually to share what these restaurants are doing.
Right.
I know we work really hard on hospitality, and I know the guys at Toast, they work really hard on hospitality.
Oh, that's my guy,
and sometimes,
Virgil.
Virgil, of course. And sometimes it can go wrong anyway, right? But I know Virgil and the team, their intention is really good, and they got 2 beautiful restaurants in Atlanta. They're doing brunch all day.
Listen, I go to Toast every time I'm in Atlanta. I book my flight when I'm leaving purposely.
Oh, that's why you don't come to my spot in Atlanta, to B&G.
I'll be there in December.
Okay, cool. Okay. We're in the fourth quarter. No, but I mean, so I can see it from both ways, right? But I love that we get passionate about something, but then we also have to stop because especially the world is crazy right now. Right?
Yeah.
So we can go. A death threat, it's not a joke. That's serious.
At all. You never know when it's real and when it's not. You can say it's just people saying something crazy online, but you don't know. And another thing I want to talk about is Black-owned businesses and Black-owned restaurants. I saw this conversation on social media about how Black restaurants don't treat you good, Black-owned businesses don't have good service. And I think that's a terrible myth that people put out there because it's already hard enough when, you know, to get access to capital, to make sure that people know about it, to have people come and support. But then when you have people saying, oh, Black-owned businesses, they don't do this, they don't do that. What are your thoughts about that? And
I don't agree with that at all. I think some of the most inspirational stories in the world are Black-owned businesses in hospitality. You know, my mentor, rest in peace, Miss Leah Chase, Dookie Chase in New Orleans, their restaurant was started in the 40s. It's the first integrated restaurant in America. They're still crushing it 80 years later. My neighbor is Sylvia's, the Woods family, right? Iconic, 63 years and 60 plus years. So they're not going anywhere. So again, it's almost like the conversation you have at the block party, and we are hard on each other as a community, sometimes for fun, and that's who we are. But you just brought up some very important things. It is harder for Black-owned businesses to get access to capital. So therefore, hospitality is so much about training and having access, and we got to give ourselves forgiveness because I know the intention with a family that opens a restaurant. They do that because they want to share their cuisine or their culture. Money is part of it, but it's probably one of the last things, actually.
It's not a get-rich-quick thing at all.
Exactly.
It is years and years. If you ever see a profit, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. So I also think some of these myths just need to stop because it's not true. We have a different sense. One of the things that I learned about, you know, our restaurants, they're very similar to Black church. And I love that because everybody is invited to church.
Right.
And somebody from one neighborhood can sit next to another person from a different neighborhood, but we're all in church. That's how I look at Red Rooster. That's how I look at Havmar. It's true diversity. We're not monolithic in our experiences.
At all. And listen, can we talk about the new restaurant, Metropolis?
Yes, Metropolis.
Right. So, because look, you didn't even tell me about this. I happened to read about it.
Ooh.
All right, because it's been all over. And you know, every day I'm looking at the news and watching what's happening. I'm like, Marcus opened a new restaurant. Yeah. So can you tell us about this? Because it's not just a restaurant, it's an experience.
You know, life just sometimes comes full circle, right? When 9/11 happened, I was a young chef in New York. A week before 9/11, I cooked in the towers for my charity organization, CCAP. And I knew a lot of those chefs and hospitality workers that passed. So, so 20 years later to be back on the site, to be part of Metropolis and the Perlman Performing Arts Center, it's one of the most humbling, but also one of the most important thing I've ever been part of. So our restaurant is inside the PAC Center. It's called Metropolis, which kind of means Mother City of Culture. I wanted a big name.
That's a big
sense
name.
Sense of arrival. And yeah, we just started last week. Right now we're open for dinner, and then it's going to be dinner, breakfast, and lunch. You can do your power breakfast down there.
Oh,
you know.
I will be there because my podcast is right around there too. So I feel like that's going to be my new spot.
And it's so much fun because it's also around the arts. Right? So right now, Bill T. Jones is having his incredible performance down there. But that's where Jada did a book signing. So it's a place where we can come. If you launch something, you can do it on that stage.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I love New York and culture, and to have a restaurant in the center of that, it's such a blessing.
Feels like the 1 year way up anniversary party at Metropolis, guys.
Yes.
Can we get back to Honeyland for a second? Because I want you to, so they came to you to curate this event, this festival, right? And so how did you, so the music part, they kind of handle, but you handled more of
the food.
Okay,
the food experiences.
I'll be there, by the way, just for you guys. You
were one of the first. I was like, Andy, let's go.
I was excited, and I'll be on stage with Tabitha Brown.
Yes.
By the way, I've never met her in person.
She's amazing.
So she's
incredible.
Thrilled to be able to do that. Honestly,
and she's gonna love you.
Yeah, it's definitely an honor for me to be able to be on that stage.
Khalees gonna be there.
Yeah, and Khalees, and people always talk about like how amazing she is when it comes to
And she grew up in the industry. Her mom was a caterer.
She has a farm. She lives on a farm, right?
Yep. And she's going to be there. And some of the best Houston, so many Texas chefs going to be there. And that was important for us to really have local chefs. Dawn Burrell, she's an amazing chef from Houston. Shout out to Dawn Burrell. She's like, listen to this. She was in the Olympics, right? Runner. Amazing. Then her second career is being a chef, and she was on Top Chef, and she's a dear friend of mine, and she's just amazing.
All right, now I want to ask you some etiquette questions. When do you send your food back?
I don't.
Never?
I don't. I just it's the chef in me. I don't. I know what that person goes through. I don't. I'm not the right person to ask for it. My wife does, though.
She does?
Yeah.
All right, good. Because I barely ever do that. It has to be really, really, and I'm very apologetic.
Yeah.
Every time that I do that. All right, now, is it okay when people are ordering in a restaurant and before the food even comes, they ask for all different kinds of sauces, even though they haven't tasted it yet? Like, can I get hot sauce?
I think the whole point of going out is also one part you want to experience something different, but if you're comfortable with that, have the sauces come in, but try the dish as the chef wanted to be tried. You can't just, I'm going to eat the dish the way I eat it at home. No, You're out. You're supposed to have that experience. You don't have to put ketchup on jerk. It's not something that needs to happen. All
right, what about to-go orders, okay? Now, I've heard chefs say that at certain restaurants, they do not do to-go because it tastes so different when it leaves a restaurant and goes home. What are your thoughts on to-go?
The pandemic, right, it taught us we had to pivot. I did not want to do to-go for a long time at Rooster because when something like chicken or waffle, it can't get moist. It's not crispy anymore. But we pivoted, and people then we opened a to-go side of Red Rooster, right? So, I was wrong. It worked.
I've definitely done some to-go.
Yeah, we had to change, I mean, with Havmar, we don't really do to-go yet. There's a lot of fish. But I think, as a chef, you have to evolve and stay open because end of the day, you have to meet the customer where they're at.
Right.
The customer's pain, so you can have a vision and a mission, but then the customer's going to tell you something. And if you ignore that, guess what? You're not going to have any customer anymore. You're in hospitality, you got to
see what the people want.
Yeah, and restaurant, the word restaurant means to restore your spirit, restore your community, right? So you have to, Rooster's not my restaurant, it's a restaurant of the community. You have to, honestly listen, and take part of that.
Okay, washing chicken.
You don't have to do that. Again, my wife does that. My wife does that. You don't have to do that.
You don't wash your chicken, Dan? All right, people are going to see why.
Yeah.
When they see
Yeah. So sometimes I rinse and I cure my chicken. I put water and salt in just for it to get tightened up a little bit. That's different than washing the chicken.
Okay.
Very different.
Okay, microwave.
No. No. I mean, if you need to heat something up really quickly, sure. But like, I don't cook. I would never like cook anything in a
But you're okay with heating stuff up. I usually put everything in the oven when I heat it up.
Yeah, good. See, and those extra 10 minutes, it's okay,
All right, now tipping, even though the service was bad.
Tip, yes.
No matter what.
Yes, because that server, that's what they live off.
What if they were rude and they did not do things that you needed them to do? They messed up your order, you waited, they forgot
I know,
things.
but there is a way to tip, and then there's a way to communicate that she or he was rude, right? And both are important, right? You can speak. That's what the manager is there for, right?
Okay.
Listen, I'm going to do this because this is how we do things, but this was unacceptable. And that's actually the house needs to know that.
Right.
Because then they can address that through, manager meeting or whatever. But you talk about someone's livelihood, you have to tip. It's part of it.
All right, reviews. When you leave a restaurant, how do you feel? Maybe your experience wasn't great. Should you go and leave a review, or should you talk to the manager, or both?
Both. I mean, we, as chefs, we always think this is the way it's supposed to be. We don't have to listen. We have to listen. I read every morning. We read our reviews. We learn from the customers. And because we learn a ton. If we think the customer was not waiting for the food, and every review says, "Hey, I waited 45 minutes."
Right.
Guess what? We were
You
wrong.
probably did, yeah.
You have to be on your business and in your business. And being in your business is not as sexy sometimes as being on your business, right? But if you're going to be successful, you have to be both on and in.
Okay.
All
right, fair enough. And I want to encourage people to leave good reviews too, because sometimes people only leave reviews when they're mad and they want to go on there and be dead. But if it's great, reviews do mean a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's how we learn. That's the feedback that we work on, right? And we need that. When you are having a dialogue with the guest like that, the restaurant can actually improve, right? If we don't have any dialogue, that's when the restaurant what happened, and then it closes down.
All right, and I want you to also address and talk about your Bahamas festival.
Yes.
I wanted to make it there this year so bad, but we have Powerhouse, the concert here.
Yeah, you come next year.
But next year I'm definitely there. Sorry, Powerhouse. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
going to be the same weekend again. We're going to figure this out.
Yeah.
But can you talk about that too in the restaurant?
So our restaurant is the Bar Mar, a beautiful restaurant, Marcus restaurant on the water. And every year we have a festival called Bahamas Culinary and Arts Festival, which is arts, music, and food. And it's all about local food and chefs. We do bring in some celebrity chefs from the States, but you will meet the most incredible local artists, almost like Art Basel, that type of thing. So you have like from seven Caribbean nations this year that had their art displaying there. And then we had Shaggy and Sting, which was cool.
Yeah, that's a huge.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that's a huge headliner.
So 2,000 people on the beach, just partying, and just great food, man. So next year we got to get you.
All right, I'm going to make sure that happens. Well, thank you so much for coming through. We got to have you back, more frequently, because I know you're super busy.
Can I just give you a big shout out? You're inspiring so many people, not just women. You made someone like me think about how can we reshape our industry.
Thank you.
So, I know your store in Brooklyn, and you're going to grow that.
The Marcus has been really great with giving me some direction behind the scenes and talking to us about our coffee company. When we first launched, we sat down and had a meeting.
Yes.
And as you can see, everything you said, I definitely paid attention and took it to heart. And I'm glad that we have the lines of communication where I can ask you,
of course.
certain questions. I hate to bother
I
people.
only have one
feel
question. Is Mom's coming to Houston or what?
Oh, yeah. You met my mom in Bermuda.
Yeah.
We stayed at the Princess Hamilton.
Yeah.
And so she went there, and my mom saw Marcus and was like, oh, my God, I have to get a picture with him. And I was like, all right, I'm going to ask him.
Yeah.
I don't like to bother people while they're, but so gracious. My mom has 6 pictures on her Instagram. That's one of them. Her Marcus Samuelson, and that's it, period.
Yeah.
But you didn't have the kids there, so I felt okay. All right. Yeah. But again, thank you so much. And for Honeyland Festival, how can people get tickets? Because you can still come out to Houston, and I'll be there, so I'm excited to see everyone.
Honeyland.com, book it, come through. It's going to be the best of music in Texas and the best of food, and we're going to be there. It's going to be a vibe.
Yes, it is. It's going to be a vibe. And I'll be at Metropolis in the next couple of weeks, so watch out for that. All right. All right, Marcus Samuelson is way up with Angela Yee. And by the way, I just want to say, if you have never read his memoir, please make sure you do. It's super inspiring. And I remember when it first came out, and for me, I didn't even know your whole backstory, but to read that and see the stories of resilience and what made you who you are today, amazing read.
Thank you so much.
All right, Marcus Samuelson.